Goeiemôre, Dumelang. Good morning. Welcome to this session. I really look forward. We had two excellent sessions yesterday on family succession, the first one, and the second one on climate change. Today we have three sessions, this being our first on a hugely important issue. And those of you who come from the rural area, maybe you forgot how important the role is that each one of you fulfill. So thank you again for Theo, our panel leader, a very competent advocate for all the value chains, and thank you for each one of the panel. I really value your opinions, and that is why you were chosen. So do not be afraid to speak directly. The truth will set you free. Thank you. Enjoy it.
There are many factors that contribute to rural decay. A decline in the economic base, the brain drain as young talent leave the small towns to pursue opportunities elsewhere, also resulting in an aging population. Add to that social isolation and a lack of service delivery, infrastructure and investment. The question beckons, what are we as members of the agricultural community doing to rejuvenate rural areas? How are we bringing about change? There are many success stories that we can celebrate that serve as inspiration to all and provide a roadmap for the way forward. At Nampu Cape in 2022, Nedbank pledged their support to Pulse, partners in Agri-Land Solutions, to help this successful Western Cape initiative to spread its wings across South Africa.
I think initiatives such as Pulse, especially driven by rural people in the rural areas, is critically important for the inclusivity of the agricultural sector. We know how important the contribution of agriculture is into the bigger economy of the country, but it can only be done sustainably if you include more participants in growing the economy. So Pulse, in our view, is one vehicle that ensures that black people and others who were previously disadvantaged now get an opportunity, to be actively involved in building the agricultural economy, creating the jobs, making sure that we create sustainability and also investor confidence. And we believe if you have that, that's a perfect recipe for social harmony and the social cohesion that all of us are dreaming for as a nation of South Africa. Yes. In the midst of all the things that makes us negative as a nation, let's learn from the examples of those who are doing it for themselves. Those who are standing up, not waiting for anyone, those who are saying, we cannot change the entire world, but we can change our immediate environment. Let's get involved as South Africans. Let's work together, black and white, from various communities. Let's hold hands. Let's build our rural towns. Let's find those who are passionate about seeing things change for the better. Let's work together. And we believe the answer lies in partnerships. One man on his own might not be able to do it, but if we can partner and hold hands, the examples we've seen in other provinces where farmers and communities work together, for instance, to fix the potholes, that's a very good example of what can happen at local level if communities decide to work together and holding hands. Yes. And that's our message as Pulse to our country. Yes.
Producers, farming communities and agri-businesses are reaching out to those less fortunate. Assisting schools to increase the quality of early childhood development and establishing vegetable gardens are meaningful investments into the future of others, as being done by Senvis's Tobo Trust. These projects could only be successful with mentors in the communities.
Ons het hier betrokke begin raak, ons het die behoefte gesien vir early childhood development en ons het met Senwes gaan gesels oor dit en hulle het 'n ondersoeksplan gestuur en dis wat ons nou het. Ons het 'n pragtige klaskamer vir ECD, ons het 'n groentetuin wat hulle vir ons help uitlê het, besproeiing insit, 'n trekker gesponsor, implemente, alles en selfs 'n nuwe kombuis vir ons skool gegee. So En nou die laaste toevoeging is ons pragtige cricketnette en ons kan nou betrokke raak ook in meer nasionale sport want die Senwes Spinners toernooi gaan nasionaal uitgerol word. So ons is baie opgewonde om in so 'n klein maniertjie te kan help en betrokke wees.
Others reach out to fellow farmers who've lost everything and who are trying to rebuild themselves in their farming operations, like the heart-wrenching story of Pinky Hlabedi, who lost her entire herd to brucellosis, and how she was given a second chance by Sarnik to get her back on her feet again.
You know, I feel honored. This is my day. What happened today, I was receiving my babies, beautiful babies, my Bonsmaras, as I always call myself, the Queen of Bonsmara. 35 of them, they are pregnant. In 2 months' time, they'll be calving. I'll be having more babies. You know, this is a thank you from God. God listened to my cries.
People can only embrace opportunities when their basic needs are met. Rural communities have the potential to play an even bigger role in our economy.
Rural economy are critical for the sustainability of the South African economy. Although 68% of South Africans now reside in urban areas, they still have a strong dependence for supplies in the rural communities, all of the food, fiber, and beverages. But these communities also ensure that South Africa receives significant export earnings of over $12 billion exporting food to various markets in the world. But for us to continue to do that, we need to ensure that infrastructure is improved, security is improved, but also there's good coordination between national government, provincial government, and private sector on ensuring that we have a functional society.
The power lies in the hands of the producers, agribusinesses, organised agriculture, and us to make a difference. What can we do to bring about real change?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session of Nation in Conversation. It is always a privilege to host such a panel as we have this morning, and added to that, the important topic of the rural areas and the development of the rural areas. This is an agriculture show, and agriculture happens in the rural areas. Simply, it's not, the rural agriculture sector is dependent on an infrastructure in the rural areas. I've got a great panel. I think it's one of the better panels we've had in a long time. So let me quickly introduce the panel. On my far side is Nick Serfontein, the chairman of the Sarnik Group, and you saw in the video Nick's contribution when we talked about the lady and her cattle. Next to her is Dr. Ruben Richards, the executive mayor of the Cederberg municipality, but also a citrus farmer in his own right. Then we have Jeremiah Matebula. He is the vice chairperson of Grain SA. Jeremiah, welcome. Corneille Liebenberg, marketing director of Laveld Agrochem. And next to me is Andre van Pletsen, Ignite and Revive Kroonstad. I'm going to start with you, Ruben. The call or the video ended with a challenge. What can we do? What can we as South Africans, as the agriculture community, what can we do? Your approach, Ruben, your comments.
Theo, what can we do begs the question, how do we do it? So first, what can we do? Anything and everything that we can to ensure that our agricultural sector thrives. How do we do it? With a focus on the rural areas, there are two approaches. The one is a philanthropic approach, generally a heartstrings type approach. Let's get in there, help people, build the ECDs, and so forth and so on. The other approach is a structuralist approach, where you get into the corridors of power, where you can have a direct influence on the levers of power that facilitates infrastructure development, that facilitates a change of policy and so forth.
And both of these are important.
Both are important. Unfortunately, there's an overemphasis on one, because there's a pulling away or shying away from wanting to get involved in the structural side, or another word for structuralists would be, let's call it the political side. And so I suppose that's part of what I represent, a new way to enter that structural space. I represent a community organization that has taken the decision to get involved in the structural side of things, and I lost the bet, so I'm the mayor of the Cedarburg.
Right, we will talk about that and the process. Andre, your involvement in Kroonstad, take us a bit back as to the where it started and what the lessons are that you learned from your experience in Kroonstad.
Theo, in 2016, we had a a provincial road project that went through the center of town. And that really messed up our economy. And businesses were really at a stage of, some were closing, and we started talking, just normally talking to each other. And we decided on starting the group in 2016. Our town at that stage ran dry without water. Although we have a dam, if it's full to capacity, it could sustain us for 2 years without rain. And we just decided enough is enough. And it started off with getting carte blanche to Kroonstad. And then we rolled up our sleeves and we said, okay, enough is enough. We just draw a line and we said, this is our town, this is our country. For so many years, today we're talking 29 years. So at that stage it was something like 26 years. We've sat and we've all done nothing. Every single one of us. We haven't written a letter. We did not contact the media. We didn't draw up petitions. We did absolutely nothing. And we were just onlookers. And it was time to not just be onlookers, but to be part of everything and to fix it. And that's how we started.
But you need a structured approach. You ended up with almost a recipe.
Yeah, what we did is, firstly, is we got a core group together, and the core group is very important. If you don't have the right people, like my right hand is my daughter in the audience, and then we've got 8 other people, a small group of 10, but everybody was like-minded. Everybody had the same passion, the same vision, was doing the same thing, without the one knowing about the other. And we started this committee, and then we had to come up with a plan. And we have similarities between Ruben and ourselves. We've got the plan called the why, how, and what. And our plan we got from God. This was a matter of prayer. And why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Plain and simple, no rocket science. How are we going to do it? And then what is the outcome we wanted to achieve? In that first plan, which was in Afrikaans, in December of 2019, because as we progressed, 2018, just for interest's sake, in 2018, we cleaned the town. We decided on cleaning all the main entrances. Let's start there. And the municipality wanted to lock us up and fine us, 1,500 Rand each. And we just decided, sorry, this is our town. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue. And we came up with a plan. The first one was in Afrikaans. December of 2019, January 2020, in the what section of that plan, and it's available on our webpage, is Dorp van die Jaar. And at the bottom part of the outcome is to be an example for the whole of South Africa. And we've achieved both. And many towns that are in contact with us, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you've got to come up with a plan.
But the point is you need to take action. And you need 100%. To take structured action. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
Roll up your sleeves, dirty your hands, take action. Stop complaining. You have 2 types of people in a town. The one that rolls up their sleeves, that joins you and that works. And the other is those that just give you excuses the whole time why they can't be involved and can't do it and won't do it.
Cornay, you are passionate about the role of small farmers in the rural town development path. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
No, it's too big story. Yes, I think relevant to today, what we heard of the insert when they talked about partnership. Yeah, obviously, and I think when we sit here have a plan, sometimes we're a bit robust. We just do, we just storm in and do, maybe unstructured, but at least we create success stories and plans that I think Ruben can use again when he has to talk to the big names. But yeah, I thoroughly believe that's where we're going to win the war for South Africa and make a big difference. we are an agricultural country. We have enough land in a rural area specifically. Even although I know there's enough, but even if we didn't have access to land, we shared in that niche farming 200 ideas. You can do it on your roof, you can do it in your garage. But I think for now, for today's conversation, small little community gardens, because it's relevant to anyone can do it. You really need limited training. We have people here today that's got the exhibition, they're doing the training. But and we changed our mindset the last bit, because as you know, I think you know me well, I always just rush into something because I want to change things quickly, and I want to change it in a big scale. So I changed my mind from not just feeding people, because it was concerning if you get these stats, there's 7 million sleeping hungry, and all these stats was just eating me. You can't sleep at night. But now we said, just feeding someone, we're never going to get nowhere. I can feed you tonight, and I'll have to feed you tomorrow. So I think there's an English saying, you mustn't survive, you must thrive. So that's my new motto. And we said, we're not just going to feed them, we're going to feed them in a proper way, and that's by agricultural, small little veggie gardens. That's easy to maintain. It's very, very cost effective. It's inspiring. You get people off the street, and they have to be there, otherwise it's going to be a miscrop. And success, in Afrikaans says success, quick success. In English, probably success leads hopefully to more success stories. But with great success stories, and that draws in the community, usually a bit skeptic. We say it can't work, it's too difficult, I don't have water, all that. We address all that. Long story short, we're already doing it in a big way, and we hope it's going to tickle more people and more successful stories. But if we have successful, healthy, inspiring people with vitality, they will do other things as well. They will farm, but they then have the energy, and I think the mental focus and the willpower to say, but I'm going to do something greater for my town. I'm going to invest in the town, roads, all the things we know about the infrastructure, they can be helpful there as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of little bits, but that's going to add up at the end of the day.
Nick, your point of view in terms of agriculture and why agriculture is absolutely critical for an economy and a country to survive. And agriculture needs a rural infrastructure. Yeah. These two are linked. Why do you feel that way?
Theo, first of all, thanks for being here. You know, I feel rejuvenated today. If you walk outside here, you know, you feel the vibe. And if there's anybody that leaves Nampo this week that's negative, they must come to me. I'll buy them a ticket on Qantas. Honestly. You know, I think another thing that we need to be to, if we have to wait and plan, I'll come to agriculture now. If we have to plan everything, if you have to wait and you plan 100%, you'll never get there. You must just go and do it. And you feel along. That's exactly what Andre did there. Here, they had no real plan. Don't tell me that. They just went in and they did something.
They just start going.
You
don't have to tell all the family secrets. You know.
Now, just to come back to agriculture, I think 2 events in the last 2 to 3 years amplified the importance of agriculture in South Africa. And any country in South Africa, that hasn't got a strong agricultural sector, is a failed state. The one event was COVID. And during COVID, when the country was locked down for 2 years, agriculture grew by 15%. All the other sectors declined. Now, that tells you the importance of agriculture. The other thing is Ukraine war. Ukraine war caused a global scare in terms of food security. What happened in South Africa? Once again. And that signified and amplified the importance of agriculture. Let me elaborate on that. Agriculture contributes 8% to the GDP, to the economy, with all these subsectors. Mining contributes 8% to the economy. Agriculture used 860,000 people. In fact, it went up yesterday. One dealer came up with a new figure of 890. So employment under these circumstances grew by 5% year on year. 890,000 people. Mining employs 430,000 people, declining economically and in terms of employment. Now, you don't have to be Einstein to decide which is the more important. I mean, we can do without gold. Can we do it without food? No ways. Agriculture is one of the most important sectors of the economy. And that is why, and that message has gone across to the hopefully to the politicians and the country and the people of the country.
No, you're right, Nick. There's an old story that if it wasn't for agriculture, we'd all be sitting here hungry, sober, and naked. But Jeremiah, from your point of view, Grain SA's point of view, for you, the rural farming development and success in that plays a massive role in the contribution that organised agriculture like Grain SA does. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Thanks, Theo. I think, good morning, everyone. I think my colleagues have just said it mouthful, but I'll firstly say, if we wake up and do the right thing, I think that's where our success is. Let's do the right thing at the right time, and let's not wait. Let's go out there and do the right thing, so that we can make sure that our agricultural sector thrived. I think within Grain SA, in terms of, I like the topic because there's one word that I would like to give out today is exposure. If I look at what NAMPO is doing and the impact that NAMPO is doing to our country, I so wish, and it's happening now, that our government officials, they are starting to get involved, our political leadership is starting to get involved to understand what is the importance of agriculture, what agriculture is doing in terms of our food security in the country. Within Grain SA, I would like to just elaborate on a few items. In terms of making an impact in the rural economy and people out there, we are talking about employment opportunities, we are talking about giving people informed decision. I will just take, we are having 3 different spheres that we're dealing with. You've got smallholder farmers, you've got medium farmers. Now we are trying to introduce, of which is going to happen, graduate those potential medium scale farmers to be commercial farmers. I will take you to the whole province, not the whole province, the whole country, all the other provinces. Grain SA is having some footprint there. We started with people who were producing on 1 hectare, 2 tons per hectare of yield. Now you've got people who are planting 1 hectare, but they are producing about 6.5 tons. And if you convert that into rands, those people, they are now starting to see the impact that Grain SA is doing on their lives. And what is that doing is the information. One started the organized agriculture, they went out there, they didn't wait for government to get involved. They get all the other stakeholders that are there to make sure that they are making an impact to those rural communities. And there's a structured program in place, and it's continuous every year. There's improvement every year. So you see that people are getting, they employed themselves. Some, they employed others through the organized agriculture. And poverty alleviation, it's happening. And we went as far as to say now those people, they know what to do because they can make informed decisions because now they know what to do. We've got mentors across the country. We've got coordinators who are staying with the people where they are. They are neighbors. They are 2 kilometers away. They are a phone call away across the country. So if you've got those people who are mentors and coordinators making those impact, our country will be somewhere else. And actually, I can see what we are doing now. We are taking those people to the next level. We're graduating people to become what we would like to see in the future. So I think it's important to say, let's go out and do the right thing, all the races. For me, agriculture, it's not about, it's all the races, black and white, inclusivity. At the end of the day, we all need to eat. We all, as we hear, we had some breakfast this morning. So everyone needs to take some contribution, some action and make a contribution. And if we do that, those who are not taking action, they will join us because we are doing the right thing. So let's keep doing the right thing.
It seems the key message here is that we have to take responsibility ourselves and make our community better. Ruben, from your point of view, just take us back in terms of how did a group of farmers decided to end up competing in local elections?
They were part of that drunk story that you spoke about. We weren't quite naked. That would be a sight to behold. The most critical commodity for a farmer is water. You cannot farm, you cannot irrigate with polluted water, particularly in the citrus industry. You don't want to be sucking a juicy orange knowing that there was sewage in the irrigation water. And that's how serious it is. So it's about how do you ensure that the water that you're getting, that is the municipality's responsibility to provide, is of a quality that you can do your proper farming with. And after repeated attempts to get the attention of the municipality to fix the water, to fix the infrastructure, sat around a table and said, okay, in good Afrikaans, kom ons vat die plek oor, anders gaan dit nie regkom nie. Let's take the place over, otherwise it's just not going to happen. And you're going to be pretty frustrated to get to that point, because it's easy to stand on the sidelines and criticize, but when it affects your business at its core, then it gets the attention. And so there was a discussion around the table to say, okay, let's do this. And then, as I said, I lost a bet, so there I am. So that's the background to it. How do we fix it? You can try the philanthropic route, put up an ECD, it's not going to fix the water. And that's how we got into it. I mean, there's a longer story to be told. And the very focus around water became the focus of our campaign. So we are these crazy community-driven people. So we just said, our campaign is simple. We want clean water, clean towns, and clean administration. Little did I know that it's not as simple as that. The Clean Water campaign cost me my mayorship 3 times in 18 months.
That's when the coalitions were fell apart.
That's when the coalitions were formed, yeah. So I'm back, like a boomerang. Gooi maar, ek is terug. So I'm one of those mayors in South Africa that's been kicked out 3 times, and I'm back 3 times. 2 by-elections later as well. So.
But the key is, you need it from the farming community, and just to put it in perspective, there was other rooibos tea farmers
other
involved.
Yes.
It was a farmer-driven initiative to create technically a party that in the end contested elections.
That is correct. Yeah.
And won enough support to, with 1 or 2 other parties, form a coalition to govern the Cederberg area.
That is correct. That is correct.
And if you were to take that, what is the lessons from that?
The lesson from that is twofold. One, get involved around an issue and not an ideology.
An issue, not an ideology.
Correct. Because an ideology would not motivate you beyond the real issues. Ideology tends to be blind to the core problems that people face. Because ideology, in the very definition of the word, is an idea. It's not an action. Yeah? It's not a praxis, as it were. So let me not get into a speech about that. So focus around an issue. And as I said to all the audiences, rich and poor alike, to say, we all need this precious commodity. It's called water, but it needs to be clean. So whether you're rich or poor, that's what binds you. So find something that unites, and there's enough issues in South Africa that is able to unite us. The second lesson is, and it's one my wife tells me every night, watch your ego. Because politics is about ego, and it's not about people. So the name of our organization, our party, is called Cederberg Eerste. Cederberg First. The official registered title with the IEC is Cederberg First Residents Association. So the residents come first, the needs of the residents, not the needs of the party. And that's where you disconnect from your ideological driven parties to your needs driven community organizations. That's who we are. If you have a group of people in a community, you don't have to mobilize them around ideology. You just show them the issues, the garbage, the water, and so forth, the basic issues, and they'll be mobilized.
Nick, I want to change the conversation slightly and then come back to this. Part of the rural development is to get more people inclusively involved in agriculture. Jeremiah talked about it, but it's critical, Corneille talked about it, that we get more people involved in the production of food. Not only from a sustainability point of view, but to get people involved in the formal economy, in the agriculture economy. Your view on land reform and what does the future hold? Where should we focus on?
Yeah. Look, Theo, land reform has been a big disappointment. It's a mess. There's no other word to describe it. It's a mess. And it's not the rate of land reform. The rate of land reform, let me give you an example, figures. In 1994, the white agricultural, or the land, agricultural land in South Africa was about 80 million, 1994, in white owned land.
80 million hectares.
18 million hectares. 80 million hectares. It's now at 60 million. So 20 million has moved, has shifted away from white farmers. 20 million. That's quite significant. There was no expropriation without compensation. It was a natural process. It was, remember, 2% of our land in South Africa is trades annually, private sector. But the problem is not the rate of the pace. The problem is the how. And there you can only blame government. Really, I mean, I don't care who hears me. There's only one entity to blame, and it's government. It's the how. You can't give land to somebody without experience, without any training, without basic infrastructure, without access to funding, without mentoring, monitoring. You're going to ruin his life. That's why 90% of all land reform projects in South Africa fail because of the how. But there's low-hanging fruit out there. A lot of low-hanging fruit. I mean, in 1916, I started with, and again, I didn't have a plan. I just did something. Decided Monday morning, I'm going to do that. And so we started with our development program. Applied to the Jobs Fund. In 2018, I wrote a letter to Ramaphosa, and I said to him, "You're messing with the lives of our people, our black farmers in South Africa. You're messing with them. Because they're running around like they're headless chickens from one door to the other. Behind every door is a corrupt official. And we've got a beautiful model. And that model, I mean, I've got farmers. I've got 43 commercial farmers. We took them from nothing. That Selena there, she's a commercial. She got 100% calving rate this year. The sad thing about it, we've got a farmer just outside of Kroonstad. He's got 250 Bonsmara cattle, beautiful cattle. He can't get a title. He can't even buy the land because the officials, they are arrogant. They don't listen to. Now why? He says to me, Nick, I can't do any improvements on my land because it's not my land. The officials come here, government officials come here, and they threaten me. I mean, so land reform in South Africa, but there's so much potential out there. There's massive potential. 40% of our cattle are in the rural areas. It's a mess. Our biosecurity is a mess. The government is lying to us. They're lying to us. We know they lie. They know they lie. We know they lie, and still they keep on lying. So, I mean, there was a biosecurity report that was done recently by Johan Kirsten. Not recently. In fact, Johan Kirsten was leading it. That report is dooming. It talks. I mean, 50% of our agricultural GDP comes from livestock, animals. This biosecurity status of South Africa is frightening. I mean, we could be locked down tomorrow. Where's our exports? Our exports is gone because of it now. That report is a dooming report. It was, the date on that report is May 2020, 22. It was released last week. Why? They are hiding it from us. They're lying to us.
So
what I'm saying is, there's so much potential in the rural areas.
But the potential lies with the private sector.
The potential lies with the private sector.
And it lies with us taking steps, taking control of the situation, either becoming directly involved or, Corneille, I'm coming to you, assisting rural areas to at least start the process of becoming sustainable.
Yep.
From your point of view, where would you say, why are your projects successful? What is the ingredients in that?
Sure. Just first, listening again to Nick, that part is tricky, and I'm very, very glad we're not involved in it directly. It obviously affects all of us in South Africa, but I think we'll win the war with small little wins at a time. And what he's talking about and what's happening in South Africa with the land reform and all that, I think you're talking thousands of hundreds of thousands, but what we're aiming at are literally millions, not figuratively speaking. And there are so many small-scale farmers. So I think if we can get lots of wins, obviously I'm very, very dreaming big dreams, but I understand it's not going to happen overnight everywhere. But like they did on this case with Kroonstad, if you take small little hubs and you really all over. You start with a small-scale farmer. There are millions of them. They are very, very eager to learn, and they have nothing else to do, and they're desperate. And you can work with a desperate person if he's open-minded. So I think if we can change in the millions, because at some stage government has to listen. So if we can create millions of success stories, and I'm not talking about just planting little veggie garden to survive. As I said earlier, it's about energy, thriving, that he will become a kind of entrepreneur. So he must have more than enough for himself, that he can have some money to spend on something else, and that will force him to understand how logistics work or market or
just on that point, what for me is interesting is if you talk about Johan Kirsten.
Yeah.
If you talk about our definition of a commercial farmer, we usually come back to this 40-odd thousand commercial farmers. But Johan can take it, depending on your definition, you can take it up to 250,000.
Yes.
Anybody that farms and creates a surplus, technically is a commercial farmer. Now it becomes a scale decision. And I think that's what you're steering towards.
Yeah.
You can quickly get more commercial farmers, and then it's a matter of scale.
Exactly that. That's tricky. If you look size-wise, we look more impact-wise. So I think you know the stories. I'm not going to go into the saffron option, but on a little piece like we sit here, you can do a proper veggie garden. Then you can add, say, saffron. Can be anything. Can be any spice, paprika or vanilla, whatever. That's a good income-generating spice. And again, we're not the experts like them on the life cycle. That's a different. It's a different angle. But just for quick wins, in any town they are there. All these politics about the land. There's always land available in small towns. It can be the municipal land. It can be just outside the town. There's not a big fuss. And by the time someone starts making a bit of a noise, they're already successful. And then you have to explain to those guys that's already successfully farming there. Now you must move. And then you will get some kind of a back. Pressure back from the community. So we're looking after the numbers, and just it's really easy to. I can't teach someone to become an engineer, or they referred to the mining earlier. I mean, there's some knowledge that and safety and health and safety, all that. Farming is putting a pit in the soil. As you said earlier, nothing will work without water, but we have plants there, and then with that produce there, the guy becomes more ambitious. Statistically, obviously, there's always going to be fails. People are going to try it. They're going to be lazy, not really interested. But we just need the numbers. Some will fall away, but those guys will grow, and they become the example for the community and to grow even further, nearly like a legal pyramid scheme.
So legal pyramid scheme. So this is from our agriculture side. But Andre, your involvement is more from a resident's point of view than purely from an agriculture point of view. If here are farmers around here who depends on, as Ruben said, on a working municipal infrastructure, That's critical for them. And even if you just look at the logistics, the transport, the people that work on the farm, the people that have family working on the farm, it's important for the rural communities to work. From an advice point of view, if you were to say, what should we focus on in smaller towns, and let's leave for a minute the government aside, what should the people in that town, what should they be supported with, and what should they focus on?
Well, I can't leave the government out of it. I would like to bring them into it because you need them. Out of our experience, what we found is, like the first phase of COVID, we fed the car guards from the day they were not allowed to work until the day they started to work again. They were allowed to work. And the farmers played a vital role in that. I mean, the donations and the food and everything came from the farmers. Our factories in town, Premier Milling, CC Chickens, all the big firms, Cerny, Country Meat, I mean, the roads have to be fixed. They need water to run their factories. I mean, they're using, like CC Chickens in Kroonstad is using a couple of 100,000 litres a day. So everything's got to work. And we got to unite. As a group, we had 4 keywords, 5, but the 4 we used to motivate the government and everybody. And the first one was feet. We've got to stop the outflow from feet out of Kroonstad.
You need to keep people in Kroonstad.
Yeah, you need to keep people in Kroonstad because the experts leave the town. And you can't get doctors to replace the old men, which are all past retirement age. So you've got to do something right in town to keep people in town. And then you've got to try and bring back the old inflow back into town. And then you've got to create a new inflow of feet into town. And for that, you've got to look at everything. You've got to look at the water, you've got to look at sewage, you've got to look at your roads, you've got to look at education. You know the success story of Trio, high school and primary school in Kroonstad, die Rooi and die Blauw school, they're amalgamated. So you've got to have the best Afrikaans school, the best English school. You've got to look at everything. You've got to look at job creation, which we're heavily involved in Kroonstad, with the SETAs, skills development. We estimate this year we're going to top 500. We're aiming for 2,000 to 3,000 SETA positions in Kroonstad. We want every business involved in skills development of the government. And in this process, we're busy communicating with the government to fix the town. If every town in South Africa can get all the farmers and everybody involved, and you have an average salary of 3,500 rand per SETA, per skills development, you're talking about 21 million rand you're bringing into your economy on a yearly basis. Then we have SEF, Social Employment Fund, where Nick's involved. After we won Town of the Year, Nick came, for example, he's got a lady working, which is a MD for one of his companies, Sardef, and they phoned us and they said they had these workers, which we didn't know what it was, SEF workers, and we got 225 we were managing. They were managing something like 1,000, and that brought, just into Kroonstad, 5 million rand in the last 10 months. We've now joined hands with them in a JV, which is a beautiful project. And I requested from Pietro Nudia, he's MD of the company, I requested 50 workers for Die Moot in Pretoria. Now go and have a look on Facebook, Die Moot Project, and just have a look what those guys are doing. That's like incredible. And they've got 50 of Cernic's SEF workers. It's a Ramaphosa project, if I'm not mistaken, and Nick can tell us more about it. Now we've got we're linking with about 70 plus towns and groups throughout South Africa in some way, how we're motivating them to duplicate what we've done in Kroonstad. And of the finalists in the Dorp van die Jaar competition this year are of the towns that we are helping. And that's very exciting, so we can see something working. But now we've applied, Pietro has applied, taken them for 2,600 of those workers. And you can work it out. And then we're planning on giving all these towns that are in a relationship with us 50 to each of these towns to help them to start this process. So what we need, the second word we used to motivate and to get government and everybody to work together was unity. And what we discussed there and what we proved to the ANC, and we had a mayor that passed away, Lucky Poko. And then they got a new young mayor, 32 years old, Mpo Energy Chikani. We call him Energy Chikani because he's got a lot of energy. Now, I said it on the radio this morning, just listen to this. He's a Muslim, I'm a Christian. He's black, I'm white. He's ANC, I'll definitely not vote for the ANC, and I'm not an ANC. He's a Kaiser Chief supporter. I'm a Pirate. He's a Man United supporter, and I'm a real serious Liverpool supporter. Now, how on earth can you get two people like that to work together? That man came, and he started believing in this process, and he approved adopt a traffic island and circle project in Kroonstad, and he put me in charge of that. A council resolution was passed, and all the islands and circles in Kroonstad, I've handed out to businesses. I went to Serdik first. They've got a lot of money, and they did a beautiful island, big stones and everything. And they are now allowed to advertise free of charge on these adopted, beautified islands and circles. And it took the country by storm. So what we learned is quick, easy, small victories.
And they are there.
They are there. We can prove it. So easy victories. We've got a guy exhibiting here, Rolf Milling. He's one of our team of the core admin group. And he came up with it. And we had another person coming up with it, just do it. And then we came to the third key word that we used was attitude. We've got to just understand something. To fix anything and everything we're talking about, you've got to change your attitude. And your attitude towards me will determine my attitude towards you. And most of us have stinking attitudes. We even attack each other. We fight each other. And that's the thing that we learned and the advice we can give to everybody. There's a group in South Africa that started, Barend Legransie, Freek Robinson, Lochner de Kok, Prof. Wannie Karstens, Advocaat JJ de Tooy, who else? Davie Hubert, he was an ambassador at, I think, in 9 different countries for South Africa. Those guys came together and they started Dialoog vir Aksie. And we're friends with them. We link with them as well. And they've got like Beter Einders, not Bitter Einders. Beter Einders, Skalk and Johan, which are our friends as well. And then we've got South Africa Day and Privilege Foundation, Ferdi Engelbrecht. And now we have throughout the whole country, like-minded people linking, supporting each other, strengthening each other. And that's beautiful to see. So it comes and it boils down, we've got a dialogue. We've got to talk to these guys. We had very good relationships, and then the election came. And then they kicked all our guys out. They kicked our mayor out. So we need to get him back like you got back, Ruben.
Two by elections.
Yeah. And what happened now is, after the election, they had to employ the new MM, the CFO, and the directors. A week and a half ago, we got the first time now they permanently employed the municipal manager, Portia Shabalala, and she's one of our buddies. So we're very excited to take off, to take everything up back to the level where we had it.
Let's just get to the rest of the points. You said there's a number of steps, and we started with the first few. How does that link to the fact that there needs to be a committee involved?
Well, when you start making a plan, now Nick is right. We were trailblazers, bundu bashers, for those that were in the army. We blazed a trail where there was no trail, because there's no model to follow, there's no plan to follow. So we started off like Nick said, and then we had to come to have a committee, have a core group, an admin group, and that was 10 people. And then from that, we came up with a plan, why, how, and what. And we followed this plan. And you can go and have a look on our Facebook page and on our web page that it's marked in green. We've ticked 95% of all the boxes. We followed the plan. And if you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And that can be duplicated in other smaller towns in South Africa?
Yes, 100%. And the touching points in this can be used in anything.
And it's available. Jeremiah, from your point of view, organised agriculture and the rural area, what would you say? We've talked about the fact that you need to take control of the situation, but that also depends on various organised structures around smaller towns coming to the party. Your experience in terms of working with rural communities, specifically communities in the smaller towns, what's your experience?
Theo, thanks for the opportunity. I'll just maybe say a few things. It's important that you have the passion and you have the right attitude, and we created the right jockeys to do the right job. In terms of identifying, firstly, the right people for the right job and the right farmers, I think we've already went into that point whereby we say, let's invest to the right people. Let's invest to the people who got passion with agriculture. Within Grand SA, I will say my experience, and it's working, in all the towns where the farmers are, we've got study groups. In those study groups, farmers meet in a month or in a quarter, depends on their, depends on the issues that needs to be discussed. They will discuss all the issues related to farmer development, issues within the sector, theft, poverty, and interaction with other groups. So within those structures in the communities, it's all the producers that are there. They discuss about all the issues that pertain to farmers' issues and the issues that links with the local municipality or the provincial or national government. So those are the study groups are very important, because that's where issues are being raised, and if they can't resolve those issues within the study groups, they will send those issues to the executive of Grand SA, and then we can take those issues forward and discuss them. And it works very well because we all got same issues as farmers. If farmer A or farmer B got issues with inputs, we all got the same issues. So those study groups, they work very well to connect the farmers with the community, and if there are issues with the municipal services that are needed, those issues are discussed within those study groups. And the coordinators will send the report back, and then we can take those issues further.
Okay, we have been, I see we're nearly an hour into the discussion. So I am going to allow a few questions, and then I want you all to think about the following. As we come to the end of this discussion, and unfortunately this was a very quick hour, if we get to the end of the discussion, I'm going to ask each of you the exact same question. From your experience, in terms of rejuvenating rural South Africa, and if anybody, both agriculture and people living in those towns, what will be the key message that you would like to give to people to assist them in taking charge and making their rural communities a better place? So I want to end with, and I'm going to ask that specific question to everybody after we've taken questions from the audience. Is there any person with a question? Yes, here's a roving mic. I'm going to take 3 questions and then we take it from there. Yes, the first question.
Hello? Okay, thank you very much. I think my question is really around the engaging or getting the rural people engaged, because they tend to become disengaged, especially when you're waiting for results to happen. If there's no results in between, they tend to not participate. So my question is, in that process of getting to your objectives or goal, how do you keep people participating, just in a very practical sense, and maybe by sharing your own experiences? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take another question. Can you pass the mic two back, please? There we are.
Good morning, everyone. I had the privilege of speaking at agribusiness recent Centre of Excellent Communities on Labour. And there was a lot of discussions taking place with regards to certain labour legislation like basic conditions of employment, the COID Act, and some other legislation. And then also, as you discussed, a lot of farmers are getting involved in community projects, maintaining roads, removing refuge. How do you keep on encouraging farmers to keep up these employment numbers, because many of these labour legislation is having a stranglehold on their development where they might not employ more people? So how do you keep encouraging them to keep up those employment figures and even increasing it, but also fulfill their responsibilities in terms of labour legislation, but then also just to keep being involved in the community development? Because, I mean, as you say, there's a lot of stuff affecting them, and then, but how do they have to deal with all of these things?
Thank you very much. There's quite a bit of questions. Yes, your question?
Hi, thank you. My name's Morgan. I was wondering, with these agricultural intervention projects where you're setting up community gardens or teaching people how to farm, what sort of model of agriculture is being promoted? Because at a commercial scale, we see this shift towards regenerative agriculture and conservation agriculture. So I was just wondering, when you're starting at maybe to begin at a smallholder level, what sort of agriculture are you promoting, and what sort of direction is that heading into?
Thank you very much. All right, that's 3 questions. Anybody would like to start? Let's start with you on what kind of agriculture, when you talk about small-scale assisting, just give us some background about how you approach it and what kind of agriculture are those people practicing?
If I answered incorrectly, you must just guide me here, but yeah, the basic one that we're currently doing, and afterwards, if it didn't answer it completely, I want to show you some examples. But we do the normal veggie gardens, and it's a base model that's really been proven now is on 3 by 5 meters, so that's very, very small. And then with the whole idea, and that's why I referred to the pyramid scheme earlier, if you have a success story there, that will inspire all the people around him and us on, because we can only assist up to a point. But I think your bare necessity, your need products that you need for your own consumption. So that's why it's going for the veggie route, with the angle of something else that's not consumable. That's why we set the spices or something like that. So we're not as big in grains because you need more scale. But everyone mentioned about quick wins, quicker success stories, because that's what we desperate need in South Africa now. We have to tell really good success stories, and not people don't want to hear in a year's time. They want to. If I talk to someone, he said, you sound very confident. Where did you do it? I must say, there's already 100,000 examples. So veggie gardens, if that answers the question, on a very, very small scale. And again, we don't get strangled in the terminology if it's a small scale farmer, emerging farmer. A farmer for us, someone that's doing activity on land, producing food, is a farmer, and we're all in the same team.
Can I ask that afterwards, that you take it up further?
I'll show you some examples that I've brought along.
Take it up further. Thank you very much. Ruben, perhaps you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to answer on that question in terms of the smallholder farmers, what we're trying to do. Within the grain, what we're doing, we are having 0 to 50 ton club, and we are having a 0 to 100 ton club, and we are having 0 to 250 tons club. That's the capacity those farmers can produce, and the land that they are having. And then 250 to 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 tons, that's our commercial scale level. So that is next level. So that is our 3 categories that we achieve. So it's 0 to 50, 0 to 100, 0 to 150, and then 250 and above, it's our commercial level. So that's our categories that we're trying to achieve within the grain industry.
Ruben, the question about keeping momentum going, keeping people engaged. Your experience?
Theo, we're sitting with a very dangerous social cocktail in the country. We've got an extreme condition of learned helplessness, which is fueled by government's very paternalistic approach to the economy, where we dish out little grants and we don't hit you with a whip and say you better get off your backside and do some work for a change, rather than to stand in a charity queue. So you've got that on the one hand, and then you've got a default drive of paternalism from the upper classes that have land, that have resources, and the only way they know how to interact with the poor is to give them little crumbs off the table. So that's your social cocktail. And in the remedy to rejuvenate the let's call it the rural economy, which extends to the whole country, we need to fix that part of it. Yes, you can call it the soft side of it, but it's often mistaken as a soft side. For me, it's the hard side because it speaks to the attitudes. You try and convince people to work. You know, I'd rather go sit in jail. I get free accommodation, free meals, and I'll take the risk. What we've just done in our municipality, we signed off on it yesterday, is to employ over 400 job opportunities to clean the town. Now, the next challenge is going to be to convince youngsters under 30 that picking up garbage doesn't affect your self-esteem. You know, I mean, who wants to pick up garbage? Well, if you've got nothing else to do, you better go and pick it up because I'm going to be there picking it up with you. So there's that leadership by example approach. So that's the chronic condition, psychosocial condition that's not been addressed. And panels like these or interventions like these tend to shy away from it because ons wil nou nie betrokke raak met daai goed nie. So through my non-profit organization, I do a lot of work around identity management, you know, and trying to do some restorative work around identity. And in that way, we contribute to a new approach to work. When last have you heard a sermon at church? Those of you that go to church, when last have you heard a sermon about work ethic? You know, when last have we chastised people for being lazy? Just get off your butt and do it. And hey, you know, I'm the head of a municipality now where there's a lot of people on their butts and not doing the work. But yeah, so I look in the mirror first.
So the question about momentum is a complicated question. There's a psychological element to that.
There's a psychological, if I may do a follow-up, there's a psychological element. It's the one side. So the word for it is entitlement. So we've got entitlement entrenched in the institution of our psyche and our laws. You don't have to do work, but you'll get rewarded. And you have the person or the entity that can create the work, with reference to farmers or employers in general, who are saying, you know what, I'd rather not create the job if I'm going to have this kind of problem. Because once I employ, I can't get rid of, or you can't remedy, you can't fix, because you're either racist or classist or something. So there needs to be a platform for safe engagement, and there isn't one at the moment.
In terms of the labor question, does anybody want to say anything about that? Because I do think that's a challenge, and I think it's one of those challenges that there's not a simple answer, unfortunately. But it is a challenge. The other problem with that is agriculture is a scale business, and it's getting more mechanized. And that, per definition, creates labor challenges. But I do think the solution lies closer to assisting people on a small scale to get involved. There was questions on this side. Questions on this side? Yes, there's 1, 2, 3. Let's start. I'll get to the two at the back and the first gentleman.
Thank you. My name is Sandile from Grain SA. I just wanted to make a comment around, I think it's Nick's point from Sarnik. So I think it's fair to say that there's 20 million hectares of land that has been transferred to black ownership. But the practical experience is financing the productivity of those hectares is non-existent. So technically, you sit with an asset that is useless to you. And I think in many cases, there is complication around the ownership structure of that land. Land that's owned by groups is generally a challenge. So you transfer land from a family and you give it to 10 families. They don't know each other. They don't care in the same way like a family would about each other. I think yesterday there was a session here about succession. You know, you are better off trying to manage succession within your family, which is already complicated. But how do you already then manage a situation of 1,000 people managing one piece of land together? That land will never be productive. And so I think that the structure of development is extremely complicated in our context, maybe more complex than complicated. And for me, I think if we see farmers, Jeremiah spoke about so many farmers that we are trying to move over the line to become independent and on their own. But the structure of funding and financing those farmers has extreme bottlenecks everywhere you look. So it's almost like you don't have the capacity to farm. I mean, you don't have the capacity to raise the money easily. But, well, if you're a commercial farmer, your banker calls you and asks you how much do you want. If you're a black developing farmer, this financial statement doesn't work, this doesn't work, where is that, where is that? The rules of engagement are not developmental at all, which makes it almost impossible to engage and grow and make that 20 million hectares productive again. So for me, I think I'd like to hear maybe a comment or two just around how you at CERNIC are dealing with this complication, because it's definitely not helping us move on.
Thank you very much. Let's take the two questions at the back.
Thank you. I'd like to firstly ask the gentleman from Kroonstad, because I've realized that as a private business, they did not only come with a solution in their area, they also thought of growing it out of their immediate area. Now I want to know whether they did give the same advice to Ndati Mposhakani to say, as much as we are going to engage our business counterparts in other areas, it is important that you as a mayor also go out and engage other mayors to make sure that they understand exactly what is it that has to be done to make this thing work. And importantly, another thing is, I don't know, I've heard different gentlemen talk about their developmental plans. But the question is there an integrated approach towards doing these things? Because if these things are linked, they can have a bigger and more meaningful impact towards making sure that we get to where we want to get to as a country. And indeed, we need to commend all the efforts that the private sector is doing. But I have to re-emphasize again what the gentleman from Kroonstad said. We definitely need government, but not only government. Labor as well must come on board. Organized labor must come on board and see to it that we get a solution. But even society, because it does not help for you to work hard as a farmer and get all this necessary support, government support and everything, and then society comes and steals from you. So these are questions that are very pertinent that we have to deal with if we want to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And then there was another question there, yes.
Good day. I'm Lizette Duplessis from the Free State Chambers of Business. We as Chambers of the Business in Free State are very concerned about, according to what we hear, 11 million people that go to bed every night without food. We looked at the Rwanda model to see how we can bring that back home, especially in our townships. I haven't heard anything, sorry we were late, but I haven't heard anything of an attempt to help 11 million people that go to bed hungry. We looked at the statistics yesterday. We couldn't find, I think it was updated 2011 last, so we cannot get the 100% right data. But whether it's 1 million or 11 million, it doesn't matter. I cannot run a business if there's hungry people on the streets. I cannot run a business or a farm if there's not fresh water. So there's a lot of things that we have to go back to the roots of the problem. So we as the Chambers of Business say, can we get to the roots of the problem? And one of the most important roots is that we have to see, why do we don't see more farmers? And we think that the biggest problem is in our schools. We cannot find agriculture schools except the one here in Botawil. So we are looking into one in Bethlehem, but we need more children to be trained to be farmers one day. And I think it was also mentioned, how do you how do you get a successful farmer? So I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's just first address the questions and then come to our closing comments, because I'm starting to get all dirty signs from the staff at the back there. So first of all, the questions.
Can I answer?
You can shoot.
To the gentleman up there from Kroonstad, some exciting news, and which is, I believe, very important to understand. When you start something like this, obviously you're going to start small and you're going to have all the critics and everybody working against you. You're going to have a lot of enemies from the left. You're going to have enemies from the right, from within, from outside. And everybody's going to attack you. And at one stage, they're going to start believing and start seeing the difference. And then your group's going to gradually start growing. For the gentleman at the back there on Kroonstad, we have been recognized, Ignite and Revive has been recognized by the Deputy President from Ramaphosa's office. So we have made inroads right into Ramaphosa's office, acknowledging what we've done. Last year there was a meeting, a Fasile Derby meeting. The Speaker of Fasile Derby Municipality, Sydney Patuwe, is one of our core group. He's a DA councillor and there's no politics in our group. So he's never had a blue hat on, and I'm seeing a lot of blue in front of me. Yeah. So, but it's not a DA meeting. So, just to bear in mind that when the Deputy President comes and speaks to 130 councillors and 4 different mayors from different municipalities, and she comes and tells how cool Ignite and Revive are, and after that, in the same day, she speaks to a lot of businesses, and the whole process gets repeated again. That's something very impressive. So we are taking it much further than Kroonstad. And then just something for something very exciting as well. The Premier of the Free State sent me a message, and he sent me a message saying that Ignite and Revive's reputation far precedes you. I've got it on my phone there, and anybody can see it afterwards. And he says that he wants to meet with me to share ideas on how to ignite and reimagine a better Free State.
Thank you very much. Nick, comment on the whole land issue.
Yeah, look, establishing, first of all, if we don't get successful land reform in South Africa, we'll be a failed state. No doubt about that. What is successful land? It's about establishing successful farmers. It's not dishing out land to the political elite and those people. It's about establishing. It's not rocket science to establish a beef farmer, and I can't talk about all the other citrus and those. To establish a beef farmer is as easy as falling out of a tree. All you give them access to land, you give them access to finance. Now I'll come back to that one. Mentoring, monitoring. We've got Senves here. We've got commercial banks financing our farmers without any collateral. Because why? They've been trained, we're mentoring and monitoring them. Okay, so that's the simple answer. The fact of the matter is that we're in trouble in South Africa. We're in big trouble. We've got 8.8% of the world population in South Africa. We've got 3.8% of the unemployed in the world in South Africa. Again, you don't need to be an Einstein to see that there's trouble. But you know, there are, but I think what's happened in South Africa had to happen. It had to happen to reset us. And this conversation today is an hour and a quarter. Now, we need to have a 3-day conference like we had at Bella in 2080. That's what we need.
About the rural community.
About the rural communities. That's what we need. Because there's so much hope. We must spread hope. And,
Amen.
And this is what, I mean, there's so much happening in South Africa. We must have it. We must ask Chris Burgess and whoever.
Nelia, are you taking note? Okay, thank you.
That's what we must do. Because there's a lot of things there. We're in a much better place today than we were 3 years ago.
All right, just a question. I'm going to take the one question about part of what you're doing, Corneille, is actually training small little people to produce food for themselves. And that, I think, is part of the steps of training. And we had a lot of discussion about water early in the program, but that is part of a training process.
Yeah, the million she referred to, I think she missed that part earlier. Also afterwards, just give an example, but that's
all right.
that, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys for a closing comment. Nick started the process. We need a Bella on the rural rejuvenation and how do people get involved to get the rural South Africa going. But I'm going to ask you, everybody, for a last comment from an advisory point that people can take away. So I am going to start with Jeremiah.
Thanks, Theo. I think it's important that we go back to the basics. You know, Information Day. Those were very important to give exposure to the young kids, so that they understand what careers are there in agriculture. There's a lot of things and careers that can be done in agriculture, and to bring the interest of those young generation, young up-and-coming farmers to join the agricultural sector. And the other thing is the Farmers' Day. Bring back the Farmers' Day in our different regions, so that you invite the kids, you invite the school kids and those who are living around those areas to see that there's opportunities and careers within the industry. So Farmers' Day information session are important. Lastly, it's important, I've sat in other meetings and you find that the other problem is that our officials, at some point, they don't have the exposure in terms of what is happening actually in the agricultural sector. Others, they don't even understand when we say we got NAMPO. What is happening at NAMPO? What is this NAMPO? It's very important that we give exposure, because that communication, it brings the exposure and understanding, even of our politicians and our, fortunately the mayor is a citrus farmer, so he understands some of the stuff, but some of them, they were not exposed to these things. Once you bring a person to the table and you make him understand that this is what NAMPO is doing, this is what the importance of the agricultural sector is doing. If we don't get this thing right, this is the danger we are putting the country at. Definitely the mindset of those people that we expose to these things, it will dramatically change. Thanks.
Last note, Ruben, from your side.
2 words, Theo. Build trust. The trust deficit is enormous in the country in general, and certainly in the agricultural spaces. It's still racially polarized, and so we need to build trust. So that's a nice philosophical, political answer. Let me get practical. I couldn't be with you last night, because last night I had the first multi-stakeholder meeting between the municipality and the farmers and the belastingbetalers, the taxpayers union, and the business chamber and so forth. And that happened in the council chambers last night. For the first time, they tell me, first time in 10 years, that they get invited to the municipality and asked for their advice on the budget. And the context is the mayor's got to submit the budget by the end of the month. And so I've engaged with the stakeholders. And in that way, we begin to build trust. So it's easier said than done, but it's got to be done.
And as long as there's no trust, we can't get on the route that Andre is talking about.
Correct.
Nick?
I'm going to be short. We're going to be okay. We're fine. We're much better than a few years ago. I said it to a number of Australians that visited in New Zealand, and they couldn't believe me. They couldn't believe me. They were scared as hell when they arrived on the farm, because I hear all these stories. But we've got to create the momentum by creating hope. Mother Teresa said, she said that I can't change the world alone, but I can cast a stone in the water, which creates a number of ripples. And everybody in South Africa must cast a stone into water and keep that momentum.
Thank you very much. I'm going to end up with Andre Corneille.
To also keep it short, I think just to summarize, I would say ask the right questions and seek advice at the right places. And again, as Ruben said, the grant, it's stupid to pay someone to do nothing. With the same money, we're already making plans. It's not wishful thinking, it's already working. It's working in a great scale. For 300 Rand, you can get 300 kilograms of veggies. very, very affordable. So people must not lose hope. As Nick is, I'm extremely excited and positive on the way forward because we can see the plans are working. It's not just to get all of the people on the same page and moving in the same direction, not getting involved in politics. So the rest of 2023 is going to be an exciting journey.
Andre?
Kroonstad's in serious trouble. And if Kroonstad could do it, any town and any business and any person that's busy with whatever, you can also do it. It's a matter of rolling up your sleeves and just do it.
Thank you very much. Just a point, Friday morning's discussion is about the youth for that lady from a chamber in the Free State. The Friday morning discussion is about youth education, specifically careers around that. Before I thank the audience and the panel, what for me is a key differentiation that we need to keep in mind. If I look at the last 11 years of these Nation in Conversation discussions, the first few years was people saying, but they didn't believe that the economy was going backwards. They almost didn't believe that we were starting downhill. They thought it's going to change at any time. Then we moved to the state capture era, and we all of a sudden had things like expropriation without compensation. And all these discussions was about fear and how are we going to survive, and the country's not going to make it. And all of a sudden, the discussions now is about making plans to get South Africa in a better place. And that's a mind shift. And what I also see is that there's more communities coming together. And with that I mean farmers, labor, government, people living in towns. Everybody's starting to realize we've got to fix this ourselves. So there is a mind shift. But from my side, I want to thank the panel. I think it was a great discussion. Audience, thank you very much. Thanks for the questions, and thank you for attending. Thank you very much.